everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Dragon Age Origins. I am your host, Lisanne Faye, and here in front of us we have Fi, and currently we are in our base camp. And we're talking to our companions. So, I think I had one more piece of conversation to have with Leliana.
Yes?
So, I'd like to talk.
Well, here I am.
Okay, why would someone like you be doing in the chantry?
What is meant by someone like me?
Let's see. Just don't seem to belong. Maybe? Yeah, you just don't seem to belong in a cloister.
Did you think I was always a cloistered sister? The Chantry provides succor and safe harbor to all who seek it. I chose to stay and become affirmed.
Affirmed?
We affirm our belief in the Maker, in Andraste and the Chant, but other than that, there are no vows taken.
Why were you seeking safe harbor?
The Chantry does not pride, and you should. I desired time apart from all places. I was a traveling minstrel in Orlais. Tales and songs were my life. I performed, and they rewarded me with applause and coin. And my skill in battle? Well, you pick up different skills when you travel, yes? Yes, of course. Let's move on.
Wait, you know songs. Let's talk to you about that.
Yes?
I'd like to talk.
Well, here I am.
What tales do you have?
Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Well, let's hear about Orlais.
Of course, Orlesians enjoy telling stories. I shall tell you my favorite tale of Aveline, the Knight of Orlais.
Go ahead.
A long time ago, a girl child was born to a farmer. He had hoped for a son, not a daughter, and so he told his wife to abandon the child in the woods. Before the cold could claim her, the baby was found by a tribe of Dalish elves who took pity on the poor mewling thing and raised her as their own. Aveline, for that is what they called her, grew strong and quick and clever under the guidance of the elves. She learned to wield the sword as well as any man, could kill a deer with an arrow at 100 paces, and was as graceful on the back of a horse as she was on foot.
Continue, please.
Aveline's Dalish guardians saw that she could easily best any Orlesian chevalier in battle, and wanted to show the cruel humans the child they had left to die. They bestowed upon her a fine horse and armor, and sent her to prove herself to her people in the grand tourney. Now in those days, no woman was allowed to take up arms, let alone compete in the grand tourney, but Aveline kept her helmet on, and was not discovered.
And did she win?
Aveline won many events, and gained the approval of the adoring crowd. Eventually, she came face to face with the knight Kaleva in the grand melee. Aveline had already bested him in the joust, and Kaleva was determined not to lose a second time. Out of desperation to regain his honor, Kaleva tripped Aveline and tossed her to the ground, ripping off her helmet as he did so. Silence fell upon the arena as Aveline was revealed. Kaleva declared the previous competitions invalid. A woman had taken part, and this was not allowed. But the crowd cheered for Aveline. Kaleva was furious, for he had lost to a woman and was now being shamed. Blinded by his rage, he forced Aveline to her knees. "Know your place, woman," cried he, and slit her throat.
That's terrible.
The son of the king, Prince Freyan, was present. He recognized Avelin's skill and bravery and began to see the injustice done to the women in his land. When he was made king, he rewrote the laws of Orlais so that women could also become chevalier. He honored Aveline and knighted her after her death. And to this day, any female who is knighted reveres Aveline the Brave, for she is the patron of all women chevalier.
Alright, let's move on. Because I could go through and listen to all of those stories, or I could go and talk to some of my other companions in this episode.
Why are we stopping?
I think we should talk for a moment.
There are darkspawn to be fought. Is this delay needful?
Well, you were in that cage for weeks. I should actually check on your health.
You are concerned. No need. I am fit enough to fight.
You said you were in the army.
I am.
Why would the Qunari send soldiers here?
The Antam are the eyes, hands, and mouth of the Qunari. We are how my people know the world.
So, if you're how people know the world, then that means not everyone's experiencing the world, so doesn't that skew it a bit?
Compared to what?
I'm really not sure. I grew up in an isolated situation myself.
What does anyone truly know of the world? The world changes. We change. The Antam observe what we can, just as you do. There is no point to this. We are keeping the Darkspawn waiting.
True. Let's go.
As you wish. Yes.
I have a question.
I am hardly surprised.
Why'd you come to Ferelden?
To answer a question.
And what was the question?
The Arishok asked what is the Blight. By his curiosity, I am now here.
And what's an Arishok?
The one who commands the Antam, the body of the Qunari.
What does he care about the Blight?
Why do you?
I'm a Grey Warden. Apparently now.
Exactly. You don't ask, nor do I. The Arishok sends me and I go.
Well, did you find the answer to his question?
A portion of it.
What was the answer?
Were you not at Ostagar when the army was overwhelmed?
Yes.
That is your answer.
Well, don't you have to report back then?
Yes.
And when were you going to do that? After you died?
Never. I cannot go home.
Well, stay with us then.
Thank you. Can we move on? We keep the darkspawn waiting.
What are we doing in that cage?
Sitting, as you observed.
Yeah, very funny.
Thank you.
Fine, we'll drop it.
Parshera, was there anything else?
Let's go.
As you wish.
Woo! Wow, lots of approval from the Sten. Enough approval for him to develop a skill. Some minor strength. That's handy. Okay, cool. Well, since I am in the process of talking to all of my companions, I should talk to Morgan.
What do you wish of me?
I would like to ask you something.
If you must.
Where do I want to start? How did you become a shape changer?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
Well, you are a witch of the wilds, so it does sound like something you'd do.
Oh? I truly doubt that children would be worth the effort. They are filthy, smelly things full of tears and snot and trouble. That said, I cannot speak for the tastes of my mother. She has, after all, lived a very lengthy time in the wilds and done many things I know nothing of. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Can anyone become a shape changer?
Anyone with sufficient will. But the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell, and thus requires a mage's talents. Indeed, you could learn the spells required, if I cared to teach you.
Do you spend a lot of time as an animal?
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
And what do animals think of you when you've changed?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
And could you technically change into other human forms?
The form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
Never heard of magic like that before.
No? 'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of magi, despite what those mages would have you believe.
Oh, here.
Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could, but as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
That's good. Such traditions need to be preserved.
I'm shocked that you think so. being a mage of the circle as you were.
I hated
But
it there.
perhaps you felt a little like a caged bird as well, caught within that dark tower.
Yes, very much so.
I thought so.
That's all I wanted to ask.
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
Yeah, I'll be flirty. Maybe tied to a flagpole and tickled.
I wouldn't advise it. But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
Alright, let's talk.
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
Can you teach others to become shape changers?
By others, do you mean yourself?
Possibly. I'm considering it.
Then I shall teach you what I can whenever we are in camp, provided you have the will to even make the attempt, that is.
Technically, that specialization was already unlocked, but I like having that conversation again, just to remove it from the
What do you
thread
wish
pool.
of me?
I would like to ask you something.
If you must.
Did you grow up in the Kokari Wilds?
Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I?
You could.
Beg pardon then, while I jump for joy. What is it you asked, if I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness.
You remained unnoticed?
For the most part. Flemeth taught me well. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for.
Very daring. That does sound like you.
Equal parts daring and foolhardy, perhaps. Only once was I accused of being a witch of the wilds, and that by a chastened who happened to be travelling with a merchant caravan. He pointed and gasped, and began shouting in his strange language, and most assumed he was casting some curse upon me. I acted the terrified girl, and naturally, he was arrested.
That was quick thinking.
Men are always willing to believe two things about a woman. One, that she is weak, and two, that she finds him attractive. I played the weakling and battered my eyelashes at the captain of the guard. Child's play. The point being that I was able to move through human lands fairly easily. Whatever humans think a witch of the wild looks like, 'tis not I. Not that I did not have trouble. There are things about human society which have always puzzled me, such as the touching. Why all the touching for a simple greeting?
No idea. I'm not human.
Do not speak to me of trivialities. Your culture is not so entirely different. There were many nuances that Flemeth could never tell me of. When to look into another's eyes. How to eat at a table. How to bargain without offending. None of these things I knew. I still do not understand it all, truth be told, but then I gave up long ago any hope of doing so. When I returned to the wilds last, I swore to Flemeth that I had no intention of leaving again.
Well, I'm glad you're with us and that it worked out this way.
Yes? Let's ignore the entire Darkspawn threat and the presence of a simpleton as your only other Grey Warden ally, then. Not that I lack appreciation for the intent of your comment. Thank you. Well, let's get on with it before the ground opens up and swallows us, yes?
Okay, let's do one more.
Yes?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
Have you ever been hunted by the Chantry?
You are very cute to ask so many questions.
You're cute when you're evasive.
Really? Perhaps we should be wrapped in ribbons and adorned with flowers. So cute are we, too.
Of course, and we could go
My
frolicking.
mother has been hunted from time to time, yes, by Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more.
You really had no trouble with them.
I am unsure. I was too young to understand, and perhaps 'twas bravado on Flemeth's part, or perhaps she was merely amused. I will never know. Flemeth would warn them, once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait, a little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom.
Flemeth used you as bait?
'Twas a game, and I a young girl. If I didn't get to play, I would have been very upset. I think I would place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere, and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum.
Well, they got what they deserved.
Perhaps they did. Still, I do not begrudge them doing what they believe is necessary. The Chantry sees any mages not leashed to the Circle of Magi as apostates, and apostates could become maleficarum, evil mages that resort to blood magic and become demon-enslaved abominations. It may even be true. Still, those of us who prefer freedom see no reason to submit.
And, as we found out in the origin story, it doesn't even matter whether or not if they're leashed or unleashed. They can still become blood mages, even if they stay in the Chantry. So yeah, I agree completely.
An interesting answer for a mage. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand.
Okay. Bumped your approval up a lot. I have a little bit of time left. Let's see. Let's talk to Alistair a bit more.
What do you need?
Well, I'd like to ask you something.
Ask away.
What can a Templar do, exactly?
Essentially, they're trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells.
Great. So, Templars use magic themselves?
You could call it that, sure. The Chantry doesn't look on it the same way, however, since really our talents only work on mages. Against a regular person, I'm just a guy in a metal suit.
With a big sword. So couldn't others learn these talents? But no. If they're the power, then why aren't they running the Chantry?
You'd think that, but it's not so. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars. We are given lyrium to help develop our magical talents, you see. Which means we become addicted. And since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put two and two together.
I see. So the Templars are as much enslaved as we are by the Chantry. Lovely. Can't believe that.
Well, they do it, and they feel perfectly justified. You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templars' talents more effective. Or so I was told. Maybe it doesn't even do that. The Chantry usually doesn't let their Templars get away, either, so they can spread their secrets. I'm a bit of an exception. Lucky me.
And that is why the Grand Cleric did not want to let you go.
What do you need?
Well, let's keep talking.
Ask away.
You said Arl Eamon raised you.
Oh, did I say that? I meant that dogs raised me. Giant slobbering dogs from the Anderfells. A whole pack of them, in fact.
Well, that would explain the smell.
Well, it wasn't until I was 8 that I discovered you didn't have to lick yourself clean. Old habits die hard, you know.
Yeah. I thought the Chantry would have beat that out of you.
Oh, there you go, listening to me again. You'd think you'd have gotten past that already. I ended up in the Chantry, sure, but I didn't start there. Let's see, how do I explain this? I'm a bastard. And before you make any smart comments, I mean the fatherless kind. My mother was a serving girl in Redcliffe Castle who died when I was very young. Arl Eamon wasn't my father, but he took me in anyhow and put a roof over my head. He was good to me, and he didn't have to be. I respect the man, and I don't blame him anymore for sending me off to the Chantry once I was old enough.
Why did he send you off?
Arl Eamon eventually married a young woman from Orlais, which caused all sorts of problems between him and the king because it was so soon after the war. But he loved her. Anyhow, the new Arlessa resented the rumors which pegged me as his bastard. They weren't true, but of course they existed. The Arl didn't care, but she did. So off I was packed to the nearest monastery at age 10. Just as well. The Arlessa made sure the castle wasn't a home to me by that point. She despised me.
Well, wasn't it inappropriate for the Arl to raise an orphan?
Probably. It was just a kindness he did to a woman who had served him anyway. I didn't sleep on silk sheets in the keep or anything. I remember I had an amulet with Andraste's holy symbol on it. The only thing I had of my mother's. I was so furious at being sent away, I tore it off and threw it at the wall and it shattered. Stupid, stupid thing to do. The Arl came by the monastery a few times to see how I was, but I was stubborn. I hated it there, and blamed him for everything. And eventually, he just stopped coming.
You were young.
And raised my dogs. Or I may as well have been, the way I acted. But maybe all young bastards act like that. I don't know. All I know is that the Arl is a good man. and well loved by the people. He also was King Kaelin's uncle, so he has a personal motivation to see Loghain pay for what he did. Anyway, that's really all there is to the story.
Let's see. Let's try one more.
What do you need?
I'd like to ask you something.
Ask away.
Why did you remain a Templar if you hate the Chantry?
Have you seen the uniform? It's not only stylish, but well made. I'm a sucker for good tailoring.
Bull. In that case, you should have become a mage. We really get the good tailoring. But I've never seen you wear it.
I keep it hidden under my pillow. Sometimes I'll take it out just so I can hug it fondly and remember the good old days. Brings a tear to the eyes, you know.
So you stay a Templar out of sentiment?
Oh, sure. They said that all the self-flagellation would be unpleasant, but you know what they say. One man's pain. You don't really want to know about my being a Templar, do you? It's really quite boring.
Well, they make up you, so it makes it more exciting.
You know, I like the way you think. You're all right. If you're really curious, then I'll tell you. The truth of the matter is that I did hate going to the monastery. The initiates from poor families thought I put on airs, while the noble ones called me a bastard and ignored me. I felt like Al Eamon had cast me off, unwanted, and I was determined to be bitter. But I took some solace in the training itself, I guess. I was actually quite good at it.
Yeah, I've seen that, so I can understand.
Using the abilities I have came after years of education and discipline that was difficult to achieve, if rewarding. The sword training and religious doctrine all came later. I never really felt at home anywhere, though, until I joined the Grey Wardens. And Duncan felt my Templar abilities might be useful for when we encountered Darkspawn magic, so I kept it up. What about you? Do you have anywhere you consider home?
Not anymore?
We won't always be traveling like this, you know. Once the war is over, once the Blight is... well, a time will come when we'll have to think about having a real home again. Though that seems like a far ways off. And I suppose the Grey Wardens are gone for good. Either way.
Well, we'll rebuild.
I suppose you're right. We can create new Grey Wardens, but we'll never get back those we lost. I wonder if it would ever feel the same. Anyhow, now I've sidetracked us. We'd better get back to what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Okay. And I'm out of time for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. And until then, take care, have fun, happy trails.